right, guys, thanks so much for joining us today. Again, Jeff Safaya here with my co-host Kevin Molnaric on Not Just Insurance podcast. And today we got a special guest out in Cleveland, Ohio. And, this guy has actually been kind of an inspiration to me. I've known him, I feel like, since like 2018, 2019 when I first started working on Ideal Traits. And, he's an influence because he's someone who just is so career-oriented. He's been a customer of ours for a while, and I'm really excited to hear his story because although we've talked a lot, we don't really get into his story. So I'm excited to share that with all of you today, and I know that you'll find some value on the call. So first off, Zach, thanks so much. Zach Kertulis, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. Yeah. So, I guess the start, one of the things I always kind of tell people, being in the insurance industry, one of the hardest parts, I guess, in the beginning is like people always think like getting through the coursework and the beginning stages is like the tough. I always say like the first 6 months of the business is always going to be the toughest. So I kind of always want to tell people like my story beginning and I guess before, but I really had no direction in life besides basketball. So graduated high school in PA, came to college in Cleveland. I thought I was going to go overseas or something like that. Tore my ACL, and magically enough,
you played basketball in college.
Excuse me. Yes, I did. I did play basketball Division II in Cleveland, and
Nice.
and magically enough, like I thought it was like the end of everything, right? But looking back, it was probably the best thing that's ever happened to me because I actually transferred to another school, and I came back to the original school I started out my freshman year. And I ended up meeting the guy who I went to school with, who brought me into the insurance industry, ironic enough. But yeah, so, finishing school, I actually finished with a 1.8 GPA, and they would not give me my diploma. So
no.
Needless to say, I was lost. I was like, okay, what am I going to do? I ended up pretty much as soon as I was finishing my senior year, I met Derek, who's one of my best friends now. We still are in business together. He was like, hey, got this opportunity. Now, I've known Derek. He's a wrestler. And, from what I know from him, he's just like me. We're not the smartest when it comes to school. And long story short, he showed me a 1099. He's like, I made 115 grand my first year. I'm like, I don't need to hear anything else. Like I'm in.
Say
right?
less.
So,
Yeah.
Then this is where the adversity comes, right? My parents, from Erie, PA, if anyone knows Erie, PA, you don't see any nice cars there, right? The dream job is to work at General Electric, GE, making 30, 40 an hour. It's like the dream job. So I was a little skeptical. They were skeptical. And long story short, getting through the course was like the toughest thing I ever had to deal with. Like I took the test 12 times to pass. So it was a lot. Spending that money, how to sell things.
Yeah.
But long story short, when I get into the business, the moment I walked into the office in Cleveland, you see the nice cars, right? You see the people, everyone's motivated. It's like a Wolf on Wall Street type of environment, right? So I get in there, people are jumping around, they're throwing like basketballs around, throwing the football in the hallway. And I'm like, what is going on? I'm lost. So there's music blaring like 50 Cent. And I'm like, is this? And I asked Derek, I'm like, this is where we work? And I'm looking around, everyone's jacked, right? A lot of people. I even asked first day, I'm like, is there a weight room downstairs? So I really felt like that was exactly where I needed to be. So I'm grateful for the fact that I was lost. I really had no direction. So I was willing to do anything, right? At that point to get in. Never did sales before. Never been a leader really besides playing basketball. I was a captain, played sports, but so walking in was very easy. I guess in a sense, when I look back now, like the sports mindset built it up. But yeah, just getting to this industry, the culture, the hustle, the motivation, the competitive atmosphere, it was very easy for me as a basketball player all my life, 22 years, to come in and it was simple. And then I seen guys getting bonus checks who were like, I started in my early 20s and 23. I seen guys who were younger than me getting like bonus checks because what we do is we have bonuses, we have our advances, we have overrides.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen these guys getting weekly bonus checks for like $2-3 grand, and they're like 19, 20 years old. I'm like, what are they doing?
Yeah.
So I was already sold from that point. So I knew from that point forward, it was there was no looking back, I guess, at that point. If that kind of gives me
Yeah.
a quick background leading into the insurance industry. So
Yeah. But
Yeah.
that's really interesting that you say, I mean, you now hold the record that I've heard with 12 times.
wow, that's a record. Oh goodness, I don't know if
But
that's a good thing.
here's the thing
So
though, that one of my top guys I ever had in 15 years, or even he'd be a top performer even at my prior role, was a guy named Josh, and he failed 6 times. He passed on his 7th. And there's so many insurance agents, and they're just like, well, yeah, if they can't pass the first time, like they're out. Like, no, look at there's
yeah,
Joshes out there and there's Zachs out there. And the fact that you wouldn't give up says so much, right? I mean, it's
yeah,
just massive.
I agree. I agree 1,000%.
You could have quit 10 times, 11.
Um, that's the crazy. What I try telling agents now that are newer, because just like you said, it's crazy to me because people will fail one time, like, I guess I'm not cut out. I'm like, listen, the state wants to make money. It doesn't matter if you're, a teacher, you got to go to 4-year degree. It doesn't matter if you're a barber, you got to go to barber school. Doctors, lawyers, like real estate, got to get licenses. It's like you got to get a license whatever you do, but with insurance, I'm sure you both would agree.
Right.
The test really doesn't determine how good you are in the industry. It has
No.
nothing to do with it. I would probably fail it now. Realistically,
Right.
I'd probably fail it. So I
Right.
make that joke, but I'm being serious. I might fail it. So, and I feel like I feel like I know a lot about insurance, everything, a lot of it. So not everything, but a lot of it. So, but yeah, no, it's a good point. I don't even think about it sometimes, but yeah, failing 12 times is a lot. I mean, especially when it's $50, $40, it's a lot of money to invest into a course, So
Right.
especially when
But
you
all of that, just investing in yourself and knowing and believing in yourself that nothing will stop you. And that is, to me, the biggest foreshadowing and the foretelling of, kind of like where you are today, and I'm sure like where you're going. So that's really cool.
Yeah. Zach, I got a question for you. I mean,
yeah,
like I mentioned, I follow you on Instagram, and I see like you're 30 years old and you got a lot of financial freedom. What are some sacrifices and things you've had to do in order to get to this point in your life?
wow. Where do I start? Excuse me. One of the biggest things I would say early on was understanding that, and I've put this out before, like I say this all the time. It's okay to like not have time management. So like early on, I had like my days were all crazy. Like I just pretty much knew from 8 a.m. till 10 o'clock, I was working. I was going to the gym. I was working. That was just what it was, right? There wasn't no watching TV shows at 9 o'clock. There wasn't no, for like I would say my first 3 to 5 years. I will say, not to go on a tangent, but COVID kind of changed a lot of things. So like working from home. So back in the day, I say back in the day, which you guys are probably glad, but I mean like
Yeah,
5
right.
years ago,
Right.
we drove out the homes. I was training agents in my early years. I mean, I'm fortunate enough I don't train anymore. Like I don't do the hands-on training. I do a lot of developing and coaching, but it's funny because like driving out to the field and back then, we're driving 3-4 hours just to get to the area. You're staying in hotels, doing all this crazy, knocking on doors. So to answer your question, I mean, anybody who's young or anybody even with families, I mean, you gotta expect to work long nights. I think the generation now, and I know I'm only like 30 years old, but a lot of kids just expect to walk into a 6-figure opportunity. Like I want to work 9 to 5. I'm like, everybody's working 9 to 5, right? You got to do, you got to be willing to do what everyone's not willing to do
100%.
to get what everybody doesn't have, right? That's what I say.
Yeah.
So, and people just want to walk in. So I'm like, listen, you got to work till 9, 10 o'clock. You're going to have to like wake up early and do the things that you don't want to do, right? So the success I had, I would just say ultimately, a lot of it had to do with the leadership. It's hard for someone in a, like, I'll use like the Patriots back when like Belichick, not now, but like Belichick and not ready. Like it'd be hard for a rookie to not walk into that environment and not want to be successful and show up every day when Tom Brady or whomever like
Sure.
is in there early, right? So I felt the same way coming here. It's like I see these guys, not just about the money, but they're early and they're staying late. So it's hard for me to be like, okay, why would I not do that? I want to trade places with them. And I think a lot of people, last thing I'll say on this is that they're in the industry, they're in a job, right? Just over broke. That's why I call it job. And they're looking at their boss and they're like, I would not want to trade places with him in 30 years, right? So like I'm looking at the guys above me. I'm like, I would love to trade places with you at the time, right? I'm like, I want to trade places. I want to do this. See this guy, driving a Rolls Royce. I'm like, I need that. What do I need to do? I'm knocking on everyone's door. Let me get there. So, like I said, you just got to understand the first 5 years, and I say 5 years, could be 2 for some really talented people. I was not that talented. I was like dumber than a box of rocks. And I'm being honest. Like I'm not the smartest person in the world. Like I said, a 1.8 GPA. I just was willing to work. If they said the wall was purple, I'm like, all right, wall's purple. I got it. So, but yeah, I feel like that's where I had a lot of success. For anybody coming into the industry, you just got to expect to don't expect to have the weekends where you go out and party or you're doing this or doing that. Don't expect to be home by 7, 8 o'clock and click on that TV show, Breaking Bad, whatever it is people like, and expect to be sitting on the couch with dinner. It's just, you can't expect that. If you listen, there may be people out there maybe that are like, hey, I did that for 6 years and look where I'm at. Listen, that's rare. That's pretty much, I mean, you guys, I mean, that's, I don't know. That seems impossible to me, but I'm sure there's people out there, but that would be some that say where I had success coming in that it worked for sure.
What's your take, Kev?
Well, totally agree. I mean, I started early and stayed late and did what others weren't willing to do in order to get results that others weren't going to get. And, people see where you are now and they're like, oh yeah, I want to do it. I want to get into it. Right. And they have no idea the beginning. Like say, hey, we're going to go out to the subdivision and you're going to go knock on every door and like, whoa, 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 whoa. Well, no, that's what we did back then. So certainly a lot of sacrifices. One thing I think is pretty interesting too is the number one trait that, and I read this in a book. I can't quote the book right now, which one it was. I can see the cover. But that they look for insurance and financial services is college athletes.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah. Right. But it's like there's such a parallel there, right? Because you're just used to, like, you want to win. And, you're used to a team and being a leader and following a coach and taking direction. And I just say that to, you and others that are hiring too. Like, if you see that college athlete.
So many transferable skills.
Yeah. So great. But interesting background.
100%.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I say the same thing all the time. I'm like, being an athlete, I mean, it's like whether you're in high school or we'll dim it down. We'll say high school, right? You go to school all day, 7 to 3. Even if you're playing a game, right? You hop on the bus, drive an hour, 2 hours, and then all of a sudden you got to watch the JV play. Yeah. You got to watch, and then you play. And then by the time the day's over, you get all the way back home. It's 10, 11 o'clock at night. You got to wake back up. It's like people don't realize, but that work ethic is being instilled into you playing sports like your whole life, right? Going to practice, like doing the things you don't want to do. Practice, like I always joke around about like the AI thing, like practice,
right?
Because nobody likes practice. Like,
I'm talking about practice.
Allen Iverson. I thought he was talking AI. Like,
yeah, I was at first, right? But I was like, we talk about.
We're talking AI already.
Yeah, like the practice. It's like, who likes practice? Like, I don't like making dials every day. I didn't like making dials. I didn't like knocking on doors, but get you where you want to be. But no, I agree. Athletes, go work ethic. They're coachable, right? Most of them are coachable, I'd say, or they want to be coachable and got to be positive. If you played sports, basketball, for me, it's like, if I shoot 10 threes, I make 5. I'm like, I'm happy, right? That's a good night, but you got to deal with misses. Same thing in business. You're going to sit down with 10 clients a day, 5 clients a day. You're going to get told no. I mean, that's part of the adversity, right? So, but yeah, I can see that for sure. Yeah. 100% college athletes. It makes sense.
So how long has it been since you opened your agency, and what's your agency look like now? How many staff?
Yeah. So our agency in Cleveland, so it's like a partnership, but there's Cleveland, we're all over actually. Now that's virtual, but there's Wisconsin, St. Louis. So there's about 150 plus agents out of the agency. So pretty much, I would say with being virtual, to answer your question, I can't even dim it down to like a state because everyone's like all over now. It's like people in like Vegas, Florida, etc. But our agency alone, it's pretty big. Like I said, so I started in 2015 of December, and been honestly just kept moving up and moving up the ranks essentially. and then started my own agency. Like I said, did my own thing in 2018. That's when the agency started.
Gotcha.
My own personal one. Like I said,
Right.
but our agency as a whole, like I said, is, you know, it's 150 plus agents that started in Cleveland.
Yeah.
And of course, there's been, you know, agents that, you know, left and did their own agency, and, you know, they're not part of us anymore. You know, it's part of growing and people doing their own thing. But yeah, it's, we, you know, we've, out of Globe Life as a whole, okay, if people don't know Globe, by the way, I know you were at Allstate, you said. Globe, like winning, I like love using Globe winning the World Series, like Texas Rangers, they just won.
Right.
So working for Globe, it's like who I work for, right? Parent company. So we were last year number one. I just want to put this out, but you know, we were number one in the agency last year for all, like there's like 12 categories, right? 10 to 15 categories.
Yeah.
So we're like number one in category one, which was nice, right? So every year changes. There's like other offices in California that are killing it, but it's all based on growth every year. It is. But yeah, we're just, you know, with this virtual now, it's like, I see it getting to like 500
Wow.
agents, you know, it's like, it's only going to continue to get bigger and bigger. So it's a blessing. I'm sure you guys hear it all the time with the virtual. It's just, it was like the pioneer of like,
Yeah.
you know, working, I guess. I feel like everybody wants to do insurance now,
Mhm.
personally. I think everybody does.
Well, first of
So-
all, congratulations.
For sure.
We can't let that slip by. Being the number one agency. That's
Job, Zach.
fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, there's other people involved, like the partners and stuff like that.
For
You know, everyone's-
sure.
it's a
For
collective
sure.
group, you know. But yeah, no, I appreciate that. I mean, we're even in the whole company. I mean, we're second in lead generating. We don't pay for leads or anything like that. So I'm blessed to be part of the company where we don't come out of pocket. Like I tell agents, I mean, the more I'm longer in this deal, we don't pay for resources. You don't pay for staff like most people don't. We you know, I do now, but you know, it's a blessing when you're new on. You don't have to come out of pocket. You know, I hear all the time like people are there brokers essentially that got to pay a couple grand for leads or got to pay for E&O insurance, you know, all this like little things, you know, or they don't have culture. They don't have an office to go to, right? They don't have any daily coaching, you know, leadership. So it's like working here. It's like, it's hard. I feel like personally, it's like, it's hard for people not to be successful.
This is a
I mean,
great
personally.
transition,
So-
right? Because he believes in what they have, like fully,
Yeah.
right? And he
100%.
mentioned different
I love
things.
it.
It's not just
100%.
compensation why people work for you. So like you've been a customer ideal traits for a while. You know, what are some things you do to find staff? What do you put on your job ads? And what are things you're saying in the interviews to attract more people?
I mean, excuse me. I feel like a lot of people, and I'm going to use my example. Okay. Nothing against who I spoke to at the time, but I was sold on the fact that it's guaranteed. You're going to make $2,000 a week salary, right? They're
Yeah.
like, you're guaranteed. Like you're going to come. They're like, all you're doing is delivering packages. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, nice. Okay. That sounds easy, right?
Right.
Right.
I didn't even know, by the way, I didn't even know I was doing sales until like 2 months in the business, for the record.
Really?
Yeah, I had no idea. So I'm very direct with people, you know. So I'll tell someone, listen, this is commission sales, but here's the best part, right? So what I tell people is, to give you an example, people nowadays, and like I said, you guys are all with me, like 20 years ago, it was like you go get a job. Well, before that, like if you come out of high school, if you're not working right away at 18, 19 years old, it's like, what are you doing with your life, right? Well, you better be going to college, you know?
Right.
So, you know, I went to college pretty much like I'd make a joke. I'm like, I pretty much, even though I had, you know, played basketball, I thought it was very cheap for me. When you tally up 5 to 6 years summer classes, like there's still a lot of money involved with student housing, food. I always make a joke like I bought a Bentley and threw it in the backyard, right? So pretty much I'm never touching it again. So, but it's funny to me because like when people get into the industry, I guess in a sense, they just when they start working, they just don't understand that there's a lot to it that goes into it. Like I don't know how to explain it. With the college aspect, I don't even know how to explain it. I guess the point I'm trying to get at is that you got to be willing to put in the hours, and like with what we do with people, the process of growing. I guess in a sense, it's like I don't know. Hopefully, I don't even know the answer to your question, but hopefully it does. I'm
Yeah.
kind of going on a tangent. I'm going everywhere, but
Yeah, no, it's good. So
That's what we like.
can you tell us a little about the training? So what's the most entry level person, that
Yeah.
you guys employ? And then what type, you say you do training? Is that in person? Do
yeah,
you do virtual or
yeah.
how is that?
So I guess this kind of goes along with what I tell people.
Yeah.
um, like I said, I'm very direct, right? Tell people, hey, it's commission. When you come into the business, you can expect this, you can expect that. Like people go in, like I was talking about college. Like when you get here, it's like you make your own hours, right? You make your own hours, work when you want, work where you want. So the training process, I tell people, hey, like I'm like I said, you're gonna expect to work long nights, right? So a lot of people come in, they're like, hey, they're expecting sometimes when I see this resume, they're expecting to work a 9 to 5. Like they got kids, they got this, they got that. So when I tell them, I'm like, listen, here's the best parts about what we do. And this is one thing I kind of want to put out. You can make your own hours, but the best part is that you decide what you're worth, right? So in a sense, we're in our industry where you can make as much as you want, you can work OT. I think most people can agree. You guys probably can both agree. You had someone in your family, maybe cousins, brothers, father, whomever, that you knew just like always was talking about working OT, right? They missed holidays, missed this. We get the opportunity to work OT every day. Like we can work Saturdays, work your Sundays. You create, you make your own schedule, right? You can make as much money as you want. So
Right.
when talking to people, I put that out like, hey, you decide what you're worth. No one's going to tell you, hey, Jeff, listen, man, you're great at, you're great for the team. We'd love to bring you on, but listen, no matter how hard you work this year, Jeff, you're only worth $30 an hour to us, man. Oh, by the way, if you do a really good job this year, next year, we might give you a raise. We might, but oh, by the way, after 10 years, I think Joe's going to quit. You may take his job. Like that to me, that's like so demotivating. Who wants that, right? So when I tell people, I'm like, dude, there's opportunity for growth, Joe, Mary, whomever we're talking to, you can move up. You can make as much money as you want. Here's the resources. We have script, we have this, we have that. So when we bring the ideal candidate in for training, I'm telling them like, hey, you better expect in your first 90 days
Yeah.
to work 9 to 9. That's just what it is. We're working Saturdays, we're working Sundays, right? This is what it is. So when they come into the business, there's no like, hey, I got to take this day off, or hey, I got to do this. Now, obviously, if you communicate with us, we're okay with it. But so people come in with the whole full expectation, like we're working, we're making money, we're doing this. And the best part is that my leaders and the people I work with, when they see the income report every week, they're like, holy crap, like they're doing it. Like people are doing this. So it's hard for, and do one thing my leaders weren't leading by example, even myself, but it's hard for someone to come in and not want to work when we're on call Saturdays, we're working Sundays, right? We're going to church yesterday. We're back on a Zoom an hour later, right? Working, getting after it. So, excuse me, I would say that the biggest thing when people come into the business, they already know what's happening. They already know what to expect. And when those people come in, like I said, I fully expect that they understand that, hey, this is going to be long hours. Now, obviously, does everybody make it? No, not everybody does make it. Of course not. But at least when they come in, I always say this last thing is that when people leave with me or with the agency, whomever, they will always leave a better person, whether it's financially, maybe they've learned, hey, there's so many opportunities out there, right? There's a lot. Like I'm not just subject to the 9 to 5. So, hey, I see people leaving. They're like, hey, I'm doing this now. I'm selling cars or whatever they are, right? They're selling something. Most people leave and they sell other stuff. So they see there's opportunity. The second thing is to leave a better person, right? Their work ethic, their spiritual side, they're in the gym working out again, whatever it may be, right? So I always say, whether it works out here or it doesn't, you're going to leave better being here, essentially. So hopefully that answers your question.
Wow,
by the way.
9 to 9, and then that's awesome. The last thing I need to tell my agents this, like, yeah, you got to step inside the shoes of a candidate. Like, what do they want to do? Not everyone wants to work for you for 10 years, right? and with the where employment is, it's a candidate-driven market, right? So you want to tap inside the shoes of a candidate. Like, what do they want? Maybe they want to be in medical sales one day, and they want to work for you, Zach, for a couple of years to get the training. If it's mutually beneficial, let's do it. And when you position it that way, that they're going to be better off, that's got to resonate with the candidates, because they don't hear that at other companies.
100%.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
I agree. And like I said, I guess I would say people, when they start here, I guess one thing and this is why I believe in like what we do, most bosses or managers, do they really care about your success? Like, do they really? Like, they
No.
usually throw it on your desk. They're like, hey, if you fail or whatever, I'm getting paid regardless. That's how
Yeah.
they feel, right? You've been at all. I mean, you guys like, we get paid and we move up when you do well.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, we want you to be successful.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, we want you to, because the more you grow, we grow,
Yeah.
right? So imagine a company hires you like, hey, I want you to hit every single goal this year, because you know why? I'm going to hit mine. My goals are your goals, right? That would make you feel good. But
Mhm.
we get sold on this ideology where it's like, oh, this or that, or it's sales, or it's greasy. It's like, once again, it's not like we're doing cars, excuse me, where it's like they can like, and I hate to talk bad about any industry. Like, I'm not one of those
Mhm.
guys, but when you sell cars, yes, they raise the price on the car, right? They want to get that commission, right? It's why there's like the greasy car. So like I always say, like, they raise the commit that cost of that car is not what it's worth, right? When they sell to you, that's not the worth of the car. That's not what it is, right?
Mhm.
Real estate based on the market, they're selling it based on, whatever the market is, right? Like, when we give insurance, we're not changing rates, right? We're giving a product to somebody that is their fixed rate. So for me as a representative or a leader who I'm teaching these people, I'm like, we're giving somebody something that, like, they're going to get a payout, whether everyone's going to die, right? So when somebody comes in the industry, it's like, you're going to make money, you're going to help families. It's a win-win for everybody. You're not coming in here to do something that, like, has no value. Like, you're going to have value coming here. So, like, that's why it leads back to whether you make it here or you don't, you're going to leave a better person, 100%.
Yeah.
So
So
the belief factor, like you said, Jeff, it's the belief factor. I just believe in it, 100%.
Yeah. Hey, Zach, maybe share, because I'm sure we got other life insurance agents that are on as well, or captives that sell life insurance. What is some of maybe the word tracks or the training that you use that you found to be successful in order to get a higher close ratio? I mean, just close more people. What are some of the techniques that you use for that?
So I think the biggest thing for close ratio, excuse me, is you got to show it yourself, right? Like, so I always use the doc method, which is you got to demonstrate, observe, and critique. And I think a lot of times leaders do too much demonstrating, and they maybe observe, but they don't critique people, right? So, like, I could tell you right now. So in our whole agency, one of my top guys, he's like a brother of mine. His name's Jaden. He was the #1 producer this week. Okay. He just had a kid, by the way. Okay.
Mhm.
Just had a kid. He's going out of his way. He's training an agent right now too, on his own. And for that agent, I'm looking at him like someone who sees a lot of closes. And this is what people don't understand. Like, just because you go into a sit and you're with a top producer doesn't mean you're going to become a top producer, right? So just because you see a bunch of closes doesn't mean you're going to be a top closer. It's just like we're in a car for 16 years of our life, but then as soon as we get behind it, it's like, oh my God, I don't know what to do, right? You get your license as a vehicle, you can't drive. So I always say, like, you got to demonstrate to people what you're doing, but then you got to observe. And I think a lot of leaders don't observe enough. They just want to do, and they want to be like, oh, look, I'm the man. Like, I dropped 20,000 AOP this week and made 12 grand, like things like that. And the agent's like, oh my God, I can't do that. I have no idea how to do that. So I say my methods that we've done as an agency is like the training lasts 2 to 4 weeks. Day one, excuse me, day one, I'm telling agents you're presenting. You're presenting day one. You're getting in there. I don't care if you know the script, you don't know it.
Right.
You're getting in there and presenting. Okay. I want you to fall on your face.
Yeah. Fail.
Yeah.
I want you to fail. And it works out for me too, because guess what? After 1 week, that agent's going to be able to say, hey, and I'm building them up. Obviously, I'm motivating, all the good stuff, but we learned so much after that week where it's like that agent's going to say, hey, I can do this. I stink right now. I need to pick it up. Right. Or, hey, they're going to be like, this just isn't for me. Right. That agent that quits in their first week was going to quit anyways a year from now.
Yeah. Right.
They're going to quit anyways.
Yep.
Save me time. Thank you. It's okay. It's okay. I'm okay with that. So our methods of training, I push people right away. Like, you got to get in there. And I know they're going to fail, but I'm telling them, I'm like, listen, you're going to do it all. Like, you got this. And then they fall on their face. I'm like, that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then when giving examples, Jaden, Jaden closes it. The guy's like, oh, how'd you close that? I'm so sorry I messed up. Like, now he's looking, he's like, wow, like, you're amazing. You're a beast. Like, I'm glad you're my coach, you're my leader, you're my trainer. And then all of a sudden, second week comes and we're like, hey, you seen what we did. Now we're observing, right? and then we're critiquing. And then all of a sudden people start slowly getting to X amount of enrollments a week. And then I always tell people I'd rather take the guy or gal that can see 20 to 30 families a week. And if you close 1 or 2 out of 30, which is, by the way, I've never seen it happen, but if you can close 1 or 2 out of 30 and you're seeing 30 people a week or 20, and you close 1 or 2 out of 30, I'd rather take that than the person that closes 5 out of 5 every week, 100%. Because I can get the person that closes 1 out of 30 to start getting to 10 out of 30, 20 out of 30, 30 out of 30, right?
Yeah.
With coaching, critiquing, giving them advice.
Yeah.
So the best thing as far as training, I'm teaching those people, just like you said, Jeff, like the 9 to 9 need to get, like, I'm telling these people, like, we're showing, we're demonstrating, we're working Sundays, we're working Saturdays, expect to come in and like work long hours, because if we take off, just like I always say, your agents, your people, everyone, even me, we're going to do 100% of what you do wrong. And usually typically 50, 60% of what your upline, your trainer does right. That's just what it is.
Right. So you're showing the attractiveness of like, hey, the delayed gratification is this. This would be your lifestyle in terms of income, your financial freedom, and just how fun and the culture is at your office. But you're also being transparent in the beginning. 9 to 9. And it's a grind. Right? No sugarcoating it.
No, 100%. I mean, you've been in this at Allstate. I mean, I don't know exactly how it works over there, but I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken, I'm sure in the first like 10 years or 5 years you're doing it, you probably were working weekends and up super early,
Oh,
working
yeah.
nights, I'm guessing.
For sure.
Probably, I would assume so.
Yeah.
So I can't expect to sell this dream to somebody and tell them all these things, but like, hey, you can be where I am, or you can be where Jaden is, or whoever these guys are, and you're not doing what I'm doing. It just doesn't make sense. You know what I'm saying? That's like, that's where, and not to talk negative, but that's where like the 9 to 5, I feel like holds people back sometimes. It's like they tell people, oh, you can move up. And then all of a sudden, 10 years from now, they're like, what just happened to my life?
Yeah, and they're like, Zach, I'm doing everything right, but they clock out at 5:01 or 4:59, and they're wondering why they're not hitting all their numbers. Well, you're not staying later in the beginning.
I mean, ultimately, it just comes down to a numbers game, really. So if you worked half of the hours, you get half of the results. And so you can choose to do that, but you're gonna be suffering financially. And that me, like you, same thing. You start off and just like quotes, I mean, if you get enough quotes, you do 30 quotes for a day or for the week versus doing 30 quotes a month. I mean, that's it's going to be, you're going to have nearly the same close ratio. You're going to get better as you go, but your close ratio is not going to go from 5% to 75. You know what I mean? Like it's going to go marginally up, marginally down, but you got to have the volume is the number one thing, which takes the effort.
Well, I'm glad you said that, and I think people, and the last thing, I mean, as far as this goes, like this topic, I want people to know that this isn't going to last forever. Like, I hate to say this, but excuse me, I'm at a point where I wanted to take like a month off. I like the company and the agency and our team is still going to grow. Right. It's still going to grow. Most people don't understand that, like, listen, you put in the time now to have more time off later. That's just what it is. So it's like, you can either do, and I'm not, once again, I keep talking about the 9 to 5. I'm not opposed to it. Listen, that's not this, what we do. We're like, that's why I love Rare Breed. We're like part of the rare group of people. This isn't for everybody. And I told you, I don't want everybody. I don't want everybody. I want to be a part of like a winning culture. I want to be part of around winners, closers, some studs, some studettes, right? I want that. So it's not for everybody. And I'm okay with that. But you put in the time now, 5-10 years later, you're going to have way more time off, way more flexibility. After 10 years in our company, your renewals, you have 100% like renewal. So like you can leave the company after 10 years, you get 100% your renewals, which is the reason why I stayed in insurance. And that if I passed away, that renewal gets passed to my kids, my wife. It's lifetime renewals. That's what it is. Yeah. So I tell people, you can really put 10 years in this industry, bust your butt. And now you're 10 years in, you're 35, 55, 45, doesn't matter how old you are, right? And now it's like, hey, I want to start a family, I want to be with my kids, I want to do this, I want to do that. It's like, you can have all the time in the world now because you put in the time early, right? So, so there's like a saying I always like use from one of the top guys in our company. sacrifice creates opportunity. You got to sacrifice the time now to create more of an opportunity for yourself later,
For
right?
sure.
So, I mean, just like going back to that, like I hate telling people 9 to 9. It's not always going to be like that, but
Right.
you put the time in now, the grind, and I'm sure you guys both agree. How many times do you guys, Jeff, and like the both of you, like talk about like, oh, remember those days we used to like do
Yeah.
this, we used to grind, like, right? I'm sure you guys been there.
Yeah.
Like,
100%.
so I embrace the grind even more now. Like I'm looking at the times, in the hotels. I talk about the hotel stays all the time. So I mean, advice I give people, it's like the grind you're putting in now, you're actually going to love this more probably than down the road. Like, yes, it's going to be nice going to T-ball practice with the kid at 40 and you don't have to really work and you're getting renewals like 20, 30, 40 grand a month, like 10, 12 grand a month of renewals. You don't really have to work, but like the grind, sometimes you're going to miss it 100%. So embrace it now because it's fun. It's fun.
Mhm.
I love it at least. So
Well, then,
people,
then what I found is then you just get to do what you love to do, so it doesn't feel like work. Like I don't feel like I work any days. Like I love it. Like this is just a part of my lifestyle and what I do. And I don't say I have to go to work. Like, I mean, there's times I'm on vacation, like I have to get back to work. Like I can't wait to get back, like that's just, it doesn't feel like a grind at all. So that's when it gets really fun. For sure.
I agree. I think culture has a lot to do with that too.
Right.
So
when
big
you're-
nowadays. Yeah.
When you're around sharp people and winners, like no one ever felt sports when they were playing sports in high school or college. It wasn't work. Like they wanted to go in and get extra shots in the gym, or if they're playing football, right?
Yeah.
Watching film, right? That wasn't work. Like I want to do this, same thing we feel in business, same thing we do.
Yeah.
So, but once again, not everybody feels that way. That's why I think like, just like,
Yeah.
you guys, it's like, it's only like the top 1% of people making in this industry. It's what it is. So,
And you can tell them, and you can talk to them, and you'd give them just like we would give them the exact same thing, like the recipe
blueprint.
of what to do.
Yeah.
And yet, most will just not choose to go down the path, or they get excited for the first month, and then it's like, this is really hard.
Then it's like, wait,
then
Rebecca,
it's like,
where are you
that's
at? Yeah.
It's over. Like, no, this really isn't for me.
Yeah.
Okay, like we told you, it's going to be hard work.
100%.
So, yeah. So,
Agree.
where do you see yourself? What's look like for the next few years for you?
yeah. So, the big thing for me is that, I know it sounds crazy. So some people may think it's crazy, but I want to be out of the insurance industry, like in like probably 10 more years,
Okay.
but I don't want to be out completely. Excuse me. I want to be this opportunity has allowed me to do other things, right? So where I see myself, we're growing, right? And it's funny because, people are like, you're never going to quit. Like you love this. Like you're 24/7. Like
Yeah.
my phone's already rang like 10 times since I've been in this room, but, I'm just always, I'm like that guy at midnight. You call me, I'm picking up. Right. So
Right.
probably not, but I'd
Right.
like to, settle down, have a family and all that good stuff. So my vision is, I want to pass the torch to some of the guys that are with me, and the gals. There's a couple of females that are killing it. I want to pass the torch. So in 10 years, 5 years, whatever, I want to be like, hey, you guys take over everything. Like I will oversee, I'll help, I'll coach. I'm there to, do whatever it may be, but I want to be able to kind of have some more time and, be there for my family. And hate to say it, but I really haven't had a chance the last decade, I would say last 8 years, to spend time with my parents, my sisters, my family. I really haven't. They're a few hours away. I have most of my family lives in like central PA, like Philly area, Harrisburg. So, I'd like to kind of spend more time with them down the road and hopefully have grandkids and all this good stuff. So I'm telling you this because this is where my head's at, right? This is where everybody should eventually want to get to, right? I'm sure you guys say the same thing, like, what's your why? It's like one of the biggest things people in business say, like, what's your why to show up every day? It's the money. Once you start driving the car, the dream car, and you live in like the complex, whether it's downtown overlooking the city, I've been there, or, you have the place on the water with a couple of jet skis out on the loading dock. Like once you get to that point, I mean, then maybe you're whatever it may be. It's like there's got to be a bigger purpose, So I guess my biggest vision for both of you to say was, I want to keep working super hard now because I don't have the responsibilities of a kid. I don't have the responsibilities of being married, right? I'm not subject to like staying in Cleveland or staying in New
Sure.
Jersey. Like if someone picked me up tomorrow, I was like, hey, I got this great opportunity. Like I need you to go down. There's 30 agents. Like just give an example. Like if I had to, I would. I could get up tomorrow and go, right? I could. I'm not
Right.
subject to anywhere. So that's my vision. That's where I want to be. And to be able to retire by 40, I mean, that's like a dream for most people. Some people, especially older folks, especially like my father, he's like, that's not possible. That's not gonna happen.
Same with my dad. Oh man, same thing. They grew up in a different time though, too, right?
Yeah, of course. It took me, fun fact, just a fun story. They told me to quit so many times in the business. Like the first, especially when I failed, they're like, Zach, you're a terrible student. You failed the test this month. This ain't gonna work, right? I'm like, and I just want to prove them wrong. But the funny part is, even after I made 6 figures, like my first year, 2 years, this is like my day. He's like, let's see what it looks like next year. Let's see what it looks like next year. So, but I laugh now because now it's like, even now they still are like, oh, you work so much, but now it's different. They're like, you can't come home this weekend, but you make your own schedule. Why can't you come home? But like 7 years, it's just like things have changed now. They understand what I do, more flexibility. They think like now, like money's like falls off trees essentially in some way for me, but and I'm not talking about the money aspect. I'm just saying like they think like this. I live in this different world, but it's like I'm still like the same. My mindset's still the same, and this I think like maybe people should take some from this. My mindset is actually more stronger, like work wise, than it was when I began.
Yeah.
Like I'm more grind mode than it was when I was 23. 1,000%.
You want to get in the trenches, right?
Right.
100%. So, and I think that it's just like if you ever notice if you're on Zoom calls, I guess last thing I'll say is like, it's always the people who are showing up every day. It's always the people who are asking questions that are the people that are making the most freaking money. It's always the people. And the people that don't make money are the people you don't hear from, right? So like, I'm in this point where I'm like, how do I get better? So I need to show up even more every day. Stay at the office till 9, even though I don't need to. Like stay at the office, do this, do that. So my vision right now is like I get to, not I have to. I get to do this, right? I don't have a kid.
Yeah.
I'm not married. I get to do this. I get to wake up every day and do this. Like I get to. It's not like, oh shoot, it's another day, Jeff. I gotta go in the office, man. Like text the boss. Like I don't really feel good today, boss. Like can I take no? Like I get to get up. It's a blessing, right? I'm religious. Not going on a religious tangent, but I'm like, God bless another day. So I'm gonna do everything I can with the blessings I got to pour into more people. So my vision is like 10 years. I want other people to like live my experience. If they want maybe something different, pass the torch essentially. So
Great.
Let me touch on.
Never been more excited, by the way. I'm like, if you guys can't tell, I'm like super excited.
Oh, dude, we could. Yeah, that's
For
awesome.
sure.
I just watched Jaden and have a kid. Like I'm talking about Jaden and all that, but like he's like my brother. Like I've watched him at 18 years old in the business. He's not 25. He just had a kid for the first time. You know how amazing that is?
Yeah.
It's like I feel like I just had a kid, So.
You're kind of sick today, and yet you're jacked up. Take the coat off, and you're ready to go, man.
I know. It's like one of those nights you wake up at 2 a.m, you're coughing a bunch at nighttime. You take a sip of the water, you're like, okay, I'm better now.
To our listeners, Zach's not feeling good yet. He's jacked up, so that just shows how passionate he really is. And if I could just touch on something, you mentioned your father, and it sounds like you absolutely love your father. I love my father too, but I think sometimes what we were talking about earlier in a podcast, limited belief.
Yeah.
So just because like anybody, and I'm not trying to be like that, inspirational, motivational person out there that, says this line, but don't let anyone tell you, even if it's family, like you got to have your own belief set. I remember my dad, I was playing tennis and I was the best in the area. I was just whooping on kids, but I wasn't the best in the state. And I remember my dad was just like, you can't get much better. Why are you still going to practice? And my brother, who was my coach, he was like, Dad, that's the worst advice you could give, right? But here's me. I'm like, yeah, I'm a stud, even though I go get wrecked by people in the country, right? So it's really funny, right? So it's like I love my dad, but would I take business advice from him and, maybe growth advice? Maybe not as much as I would with Kevin or some of my other mentors. So just because you love someone, just because they're a big part of your life doesn't mean you got to take their advice or have that same belief mindset.
Well, I
Well,
think a lot of times I'll jump in real quick and let you talk. Is it makes them feel better about themselves of whatever situation they're in. You know what I mean? So if you give them these goals and these aspirations that are just super high performing, and if they think maybe they can't do it, then it makes them maybe more comfortable to say, I don't know. It makes them feel more normalized,
Yeah.
I guess. But one take on it.
What's your take, Zach?
no, I mean, I was just gonna say, I always tell people, you wouldn't want to trade places with them. And I know it sounds bad. No one wants to say, I wouldn't want to trade places with my father, but like, if you don't see yourself wanting to be there in 40 years, I probably wouldn't take advice from him, right? I mean, that's like what I tell people. And also, excuse me, is like, I'm like a big believer. Like I see like, and like I said, Trump's, they pass down like the generation. Everyone talks about, like he had got a loan, this and that. Like I want to be able to give that to like my kid, right? Like I want to be able to like, hey, I want to be able to say, hey, I passed down a generation where they just keep getting better, right? Like
Right.
I'm sure Donald Trump's, and I hate to talk about, it's not about
Yeah,
politics.
yeah,
I'm just
yeah.
giving
No, we got you.
somebody everybody knows, right? Like he's the president of the United States. I doubt his father ever knew he was going to be the president of the United States. Like, they run everything, a lot of things, Trump Towers or Chicago, whatever it may be. So it's like, if anything, someone should look at that and be like, hey, I want to be like a better version of my father. I want to be like the next generation, lead on, do better, do this, do that. Cause everybody can use like my grandfather was a bad guy. Like he was not good. Maybe he smoked a bunch of cigarettes, like everyone probably has like someone in that family or like, man, he was like not, didn't make a lot of money. And you look at your father like, wow, he did good for himself. But it's like you should want to lead on and do better than that.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
100%. So I
Yeah.
feel like parents are always like, they want what's best for you. They're always going to be like, oh, don't do they always want to play the safe route because they want what's best for you, safe for you, the safe route.
Yeah.
But the good news about insurance, I mean, it's like there's no safe route, but I mean the opportunity of like doing this, I mean, it's crazy. I mean, I'm thinking about like the amount of people that came in and their parents tell them not to do this. Like I'm sure when you started Allstate, like it was probably like I'm assuming a family were like, nah, I wouldn't get into the industry, I'm guessing, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, there's the doubts of, so you're going to give up so I was probably making 125, 150,000 at a car dealership. I had a free car, free gas, free insurance, everything. And so I gave up all of that security to spend my money before I even made a dollar to create and buy the office space and everything I need to be in it. And so that's a big thing that a lot of people aren't willing to take that amount of risk. And the greater the risk becomes the greater the reward. So there certainly are, the people that are questioning, whether you should do it or not. So I think we all have that in the beginning. And then once they see it, like, oh yeah, well, maybe I should do that too. And it's like, well, you don't know what I did. You don't know what it's like. So you got to walk from the beginning of my shoes, not just where they are today, And one thing about mentors too is it depends. Like we're all take advice from our dad, right?
Mm-hmm.
It just depends on, so what category are we talking about? So if we're talking about insurance, my dad didn't do insurance. Your dad didn't do insurance. So we wouldn't look to them for that insurance, right? For insurance advice. But obviously there's so many different mentors that are excellent at what they do and what they're the best at. And so, just keeping that in mind is I've got different mentors based on, what topic we're talking about.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. I mean, yeah, the people I've talked to before I even started here, a couple of them didn't even do insurance at all, but I knew they were successful. And I was like, hey, like, what do you think about this? Like, oh yeah, I know a couple guys that do it. I'm like, okay, perfect. That's all I need to hear.
Yeah.
Some people, Derek, I see him making money. I'm like, I'm all in, so, but yeah, I hear you guys. So
I still go back to the beginning. Like you failed 11 times, and that is just a telltale sign of where you are, that you just won't give up. You're just relentless. And that's what you have to be in I think, business to get the top is knowing that it's also, I know you talk about money, and it's great, money gives you freedom and all these nice things. Money's just a tool. But I think that, you maybe like me, like you want to win first. And when you win, then the money comes. But I just love to win, and everything seems to fall in place.
Amen.
Said it 100%. And here's the best part. There's people here in this industry that are with me that are completely content, and that's fine.
Yeah.
They make their money, 50, 70 grand a year, right? It's not about the money, but they have all the time off in the world. I think that the two things that are most important in life is time and money, or time and family. It's what it is, right? It's what two people want,
Right.
right? So people want to spend time with family and friends now, or they want to have like time off, right? Like most people, and I always kind of say like, those are the things that like kind of people love. Like when they come into an industry, like, hey, I want that, right? I want to eventually like be with my family or my friends. Cause I was saying when we're 60, 70 years old, like Jeff, you're not going to look back and be like, man, like this podcast was great. Like it was so good. You know, like I wish I did more podcasts. Like you might, but like most people I feel would be like, I wish I spent more time with like the people I love, like my
For sure.
wife or my kids or my family, my loved ones, right? When they're like 70, when like someone's on their deathbed, that's
Yeah.
like where my head goes, right?
Mhm.
When you're like 70 years old, you're looking back. I wish I spent more time on my phone. I wish I worked more, right? A lot of people think about this stuff. So it's like for me, it's like I like to be that person, you know, that I guess the insurance industry alone allows you to be that person to where you have, like you said, not just the financial freedom, but like the asset, like the opportunity to just work when you want and how you want. You don't need to clock in every day, and you can just, you have so much freedom, like
Right.
time, so much time on your hands to
And
do
you've
what you want to
created
do.
that lifestyle so that you're able to do that and have
Yeah, I
that
mean it's
plan of
crazy,
attack.
right? So, and on top of that, people, you know, and I hate to talk about bad about like parents. I'm not saying like don't listen to your parents, by the way.
We were on that track a little bit, but that's important. We talked about it.
I'm not saying that. I love my parents. I take advice all the time
Same here.
from my parents, but you know, certain things that you should really look at and be like, hey, you know, I'm 25 years old, I'm 35 years old. Okay. Like, you know, I appreciate my parents. I listen to this, but I see this. If you don't see what other people are doing in a company
Yeah.
or organization, whatever it may be, if you don't see people being successful, if you don't see yourself like wanting to like be in someone's role that you could get to in the next like few years, I don't know if that'd be an opportunity for you. You know, I just don't know if that would be something you want to do. But yeah, long story short, insurance, you guys are in it. It's an unreal opportunity, especially since COVID and working virtual and working when you want, how you want, making as much money as you can, not capped out how much money you can make. It's just things have changed so much. I'm just appreciated to be in this industry and most especially being on this, you know, in the Zoom call with you guys.
Heck yeah,
It's
man.
great. You guys are both killing it. I know you guys both are. So
Yeah, for sure. Well, listen, that's a different mindset than what I hear with, you know, some agents I'm on the phone with day to day. So, listen, any listeners out there, it sounds like Zach's an open book. So feel free to reach out to him. He's got a big following on Instagram. They can reach out to you, probably LinkedIn too. And you wouldn't mind taking a phone call, right? If someone needed some advice to grow.
of course not. I mean,
Okay.
like I said, could be
Open
midnight.
book.
May not always answer if it's a random number.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I'm always open taking calls,
Yeah.
100%.
Cool, man.
There's enough business out there, right? I mean, you know, top producers, they never are afraid to share what they're doing. Probably one, because they understand that there's enough business out there that we both can be successful in the same world. And then number two, just being able to give it back if someone gave it to you. And probably the third is you probably realize that most people you talk to, unfortunately, they're not going to do it. I mean, that's the sad part, is they won't do it. You'll tell them exactly what to do, and they want to change their business, and they want to make more, and they want to build and grow. And you tell them, and they go, okay, and then that's it. It lasts for a week. It's like whatever feels good at the moment. And it's like the more we get uncomfortable, that's when you're only growing when you're uncomfortable. If everything's smooth right now in your life, then there's probably not much growing going on, depending on where you are in your season. So
I agree.
it's good.
100%.
Dude, keep doing you, man. Thanks so much for joining us. Let's catch a game. Let's hang out face to face one of these days when we're both not so busy.
Hey, I would love. How far are you guys from Detroit?
Hour.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've been wanting to go to a Pistons game. I
Really?
have some
They
buddies that
suck.
live in like the Detroit area. I think it's called they call it RO. Is that what it's called? out
Royal
there?
Oak.
Yeah, yeah.
I was just there Saturday
Royal
night.
Oak.
Yeah.
So like, oh, we're going to the RO tonight. I'm like, I have no idea what that is, but
Yeah.
Royal Oak. So but yeah, let's do it. I'm open to it.
Let's
Catch
do
a
it, man.
Pistons game. You know, go to it. I'm a big basketball fan, obviously. I know. So
I'd love to go to a
I-
Pistons
I
game
know
with
you're
you, but
tennis, but
you know that they've had less, just last stat here. The Lions have won more regular season games than the Pistons have this whole year of 2023.
No.
So I'm just letting you know that.
there's something different about a basketball game, right? You're sitting like I feel like you're like on the court kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just a different atmosphere. But I agree, the Pistons are probably not that good though.
We'll make the best out of it. I'll show you some
He
good
played
spots.
college ball. He likes basketball.
For
Come on.
sure. Yeah.
Hey, I like sports in general. I'll go watch a tennis match. You know,
Yeah, dude.
I know, Jeff, you played tennis, right?
Yeah.
Obviously?
Yep.
So
And I used to hate watching tennis, and now I love it. You learn to appreciate the sports that you played more and more.
it's funny you say that. Not to keep. I know we got to end this.
No,
but
no, we're good.
I seen that famous. There's like this guy who's like he's like turning into. He's like doing all this crazy stuff, him backwards serves and stuff like that. I don't know his name, but he's on. You probably might know Jeff.
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about.
So, but no, tennis is entertaining for sure. I feel like it's plus when you sit there at a tennis match, you're sitting there like front row, you're like, I feel important.
Yeah, we'll hit the U.S. Open because you're not too far from it in New Jersey.
Oh, shoot. See, I didn't even know that.
There we go. Zach, thank you, man.
Thanks,
Talk
Zach.
soon, all right?
Thank
Appreciate
you
it.
guys. Appreciate you guys.
Yeah, have a
Thanks
good
for
one.
everything.
Yep, you as well.
Take care.